Very good morning, everyone. I think thanks for coming today. Before we begin, this is the first research report that we're putting out in this financial year, and to refresh some of your memories, the purpose of Hurun's research existence is to tell the story of modern economies through the eyes of entrepreneurs and companies. So every theme that we pick can double down on our what we believe are high impact stakeholders for Indian economy at that point in time. For example, we've been working on the SK Private Wealth on the Cheetahs Index, but is again trying to spotlight some of the fast growing startup entrepreneurs in the ecosystem. I think Mayur used to work with consulting firm earlier, and what I hear from us was that the list was a pipeline for family offices to explore investing in. And today's theme is about inheritance. Such a big theme, and you would have heard in many newspaper or many news reports that almost 2 trillion worth of net worth is going to change hands in India in the next 10-15 years. Even if we just look at the Hurun India rich list for India rich list, just look at the entrance, the Hurun India rich list, almost in there, almost $1 trillion worth of net worth of individuals featured in the rich list is going to be handed over in the next 10-15 years, just by looking at the age of the promoter who's running the business at that point. So, and precisely why this list is going to be very pivotal from an Indian context. These are large enterprises who will play a pivotal role in pushing India forward. The research is an attempt at understanding who these bright young minds are and to spotlight their stories. And the question that matters for the next decade is no longer who built India, it is whether the next generation can compound it. To come out with a list like this, it is we thought it'll be uh, interesting to look at a dynamic sort of data than just look at a point in time data. So we've looked at ranking in two levels. The first level is sheerly looking at uh, a date like March 2020 and see when the next gen has come and taken over a certain part of the business. And over the last 5 to 6 years, how much has the value of their individual businesses grown? And if they've added more and more businesses to their existing responsibilities. So that's sort of the first analysis. And to consider the leaders who feature in the list, the leaders should be at least should be 50 years or younger. They should hold an active executive role. It should be either chairman, managing director, whole-time director, or CEO. And it should be a part of the family business where the founding family still holds a controlling interest. The ranking is built, that the first set of ranking is built on a growth multiple from March 2020 to March 2026. On this, the top of this rank is we've also built we've explored to build a variable called the ASK Private Wealth Hurun India Performance Index. It's a 6-point composite that benchmarks each company against their top 10 listed industry peers across 5 pillars. The 5 pillars being one is financial performance, when we look at revenue growth, profit growth, EBITDA margin, ROC, debt to equity ratio. Second is operational efficiency, which includes asset turnover ratio, cash conversion ratio, and so on. The third pillar is new business development or business development, which could be if a next gen has started a new segment after they've taken over the business, and how much of that is the proportion of the current business valuation. Then export revenue, how much of their the business they rate is export revenue. Then governance, then looking at whether any annual audit reports have been qualified or so on in the last period. Then another pillar is the sustainability and ESG, when we look at the CSR allocation versus the actual spend, whether there are BRSR reporting disclosure followed by the promoters of these individually run businesses. In order to benchmark, what we've done is for every company that we've looked at, we looked at the top 10 industry peers for that particular segment. If you look at renewables, we look at the top 10 renewables. Then we looked at all these variables, then benchmarked on the parameters that we spoke about. Just to give you an example, when you look at revenue growth, you look at the top 10 comparable companies in that sector and take an average. And we've tried to understand that the revenue growth is at least 1.5 times more than their benchmark peers. If it's more than 1.5 times, then we give a score of 5, which is the highest. And if they beat it, we give a bonus of 1, and rest is proportionally allocated. So like that, we've looked at the various parameters and have arrived at the performance index score. But the core of the ranking from an objective and simplistic standpoint is the top 10 based on the value that's been created. And and the question that is the question the list was built to answer, not whether successors can inherit, whether they can grow when after they inherited, whether the $2 trillion moving across the country over the next 10 years be protected, multiplied, or lost. That's the sort of indication, right? And that's why the ASK Private Wealth Hurun India Successors 50 exists. It, it we believe is the first structured scorecard of the largest wealth transfer in Indian history, while that transfer is actually happening. Uh, we looked at the 50 companies or 50 family groups led by 63 successors. And here's what the data shows. In March 2020, the cumulative valuation of all the companies represented in the list was about rupees 4.6 lakh crores. Today, that 4.6 lakh crore has grown to rupees 30.9 lakh crores. That's roughly US dollar 370 billion. 370 billion. It's almost a 7 times multiplier in the last 6 years. Just to give you some context, over the same period, Nifty grew 3 times, Sensex 2.8 times, India's nominal GDP about 1.7 times. So this cohort grew twice as fast as Nifty, more than 4 times the faster than the country that they operate in. And this growth was predominantly spearheaded by the successors. Let me also try to put the scale into perspective of some of these numbers, right? The combined market cap of these companies now represent 9.5% of India's GDP. The single cohort has an economic footprint larger than the GDP of Portugal, Chile, larger than Finland. They have a cumulative revenue of about 8.2 lakh crores, generated about rupees 90,000 crore in profit, and they directly employed 8.5 lakh Indians. And they have, in terms of annual CSR, all these companies that is featured in the ASK Private Wealth India Success 50, they've donated about 1,028 crores. So this is really is an economic story in its making, and all these numbers will start to make even more sense when we track this list over the years and engage with them and bring these stories out. Uh, who's on the list? The number one is Vikas Lohia, the second generation deputy managing director, Jupiter Wagons. He took a company that was 20 years old and multiplied his market cap by 152 times in 6 years. The biggest absolute rupee addition in terms of the value addition in terms of absolute numbers belongs to Karan Adani Ports, son of Mr. Gautam Adani, second generation, who's added almost 2.7 lakh crores into a single company. From a single company, that value addition has been there. When you look at the ISK Private Wealth Performance Index score, which takes into account the growth, returns, capital efficiency, CSR, revenue, all those 5 pillars that we spoke about, the number one on the list is Arun Alagappan of Coromandel International, fourth generation, 120-year-old chemicals business. Other metadata or the characteristics of the list. The average age of the list is 42. 19 of these lists is under the age of 40. The youngest, Chaitanya Jalan of Ramakrishna Forge Genius, age 28. For instance, he joined the family business at 18, and he's already delivered 17 times growth alongside his father. So it clearly shows that India's next economic chapter is being written by people who still have 2 decades of working life ahead of them, at least two, could be three, four, depending on medical technology advances. But it's not success, this is compound interest. And we should also speak about the women in the list. 10 women featured in the list across 9 companies. Together, just the women-led companies, they steer about 8.2 lakh crores in terms of market cap. So many interesting examples, be it Rama Kirloskar, fifth generation entrepreneur, Priya Agarwal Hebar, the daughter of Anil Agarwal. Quite a few very solid examples when it comes to women representation in the list as well. 74% of the companies in the list manufacture physical products. 37 of the 50 export. That's a solid number, which clearly shows a good number of companies featured in the list also have export revenues. And we can also talk about the quality of revenue as well. We've measured the return on capital employed for all of these companies, and that on average ROC for all the entire list is almost 18%. That's ahead of the broader market. There are 4 companies like Sarigama, Avanti Feeds, Force Motors, Ajinda Pharma, that practically debt-free, still delivering market-beating growth. So that's a lot of data, which some of which I've just spoken about, a lot of which is in the report as well. So let me come back to where I began. We're talking about 2 trillion, almost 2 trillion US of estimated wealth being transferred across this country over the next 10 years. The question is whether the next generation could compound it. If anything, if if you just look at the ASK Private Wealth for India Success 2026, it clearly evidences that the next generation is roaring. They're highly educated. In fact, if you look at the education table in the report, most of them are uh, the top university, both in terms of undergrad and postgrad. They both have studied, the success have studied outside and have come back. So they come back with global perspective, with the family experience and wanting to build back in India. So that's it's a very exciting story. 6.9 times, 7 times the market cap growth, 9% of India's GDP, 8.5 lakh jobs, 18% average ROC. They're compounded. They're doing faster than the country they operate in, and that's why. Over the next 5 6 years, you could see that this being dynamic, more people being added, more companies being added, and so on. So the job of Hurun is trying to take a photo this year and take a photo every other year and see how the growth is, the progress through these photographs and pictures, right? And I would like to extend my sincere thanks to ASK Private Wealth and Rajesh. This is the first year of the list, and thanks a lot for supporting in the very first year. And this year the list is 50. Hopefully, the next year we make the list 200 and spotlight more of the successors and the next generation entrepreneurs. I'd love to take some of your questions after the press conference is over. Thank you very much and welcome again.